and welcome to today's IALD webinar, The Circular Economy, How to Make It Work for the Lighting Designers. My name is Joe de Guzman, the Senior Certification Coordinator for the IALD. With that, let me introduce you to Tomasz Babicki, the moderator for today's session. Tomasz, go ahead.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Tomasz Babicki, and I'm working at the IALD Brussels office on regulatory affairs. I would like to welcome all of you to our webinar on circular economy, where we continue discussing the topic and the impact of circular economy on lighting design. Today we have three speakers, three panelists. We have two lighting designers. Johan Moritz, who is a lighting designer at the City of Malmö, and Carla Wilkins, who is a founder and lighting designer at Lichtvision Design in Berlin, I believe. And then we have one representative of a manufacturing company, Alberto Portolani of Neri, who is joining us from Miami. So thank you all of you for joining us. And let's already start with the first question. I would like to start by talking about some concrete examples of how circular economy principles are implemented in the lighting projects that you are or you have been working on. So the first question to the panelists is, what are some of the examples or some of the cases which you worked on that had circularity in mind? Can we start with you, Carla?
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the panel. I'm very delighted to be part of the discussion. We had nearly 10 years ago, we worked on a XXL large project, and we were doing not only like one part, we really did facade lighting, interior lighting, like everything. So we had like a big question at the beginning: how can we manage such a large project and can manage a really good light quality where we know this will be realized more in like 5, 6, 7, and it's even not finished now. So it's nearly 10 years later, we look back to our spec, what we had done those years ago. And there was one big decision we made at the beginning, was that we want to work with a LED module. And so this could be replaced. It could be always updated to the current level of technology. And it was more of a maintenance thought at that time. And I think that is something like one of the basic things of circularity, that we think, oh, the housing has already a very good quality, and keeping on with the thought of that you can change the light engine and update it, and you don't always have to throw away full fitting. Another project where we did something similar, completely different approaches, like a shopping mall we did here in Europe, and that one was lighting designer had done a really nice design, and it was a little bit outdated, but the fittings was still very good shape and quality. So we said like, hey, why should we throw away those fittings if we only want to update the light quality and the design? And we just changed the interior, and it received a little bit more color, a different color, and the fitting is still in the project. And I think you don't have to throw everything away. You can rethink, recycle, update, and take care of our resources we have. I think it would be also nice to hear your thoughts, Johan, how you are working with that sort of circularity in the lighting design.
Johan?
Well, I have an answer to the question, and maybe we should talk about this in a separate way. Should I continue with the answer of the question you had, Thomas?
Yes, if you can, or
Yeah. Or what? Yeah, well, since I work for a public a municipality, I work with public procurement, and that's often looked down at. Many think it's complicated and annoying to fill in all the forms, and they would like to have a more direct communication and business model. I was one of them once upon a time, but now I see the benefits in it. In the long run, it's a way of fighting corruption and doubtful businesses. So procurement is probably the best way we have at the moment. Documentation and systems that follow up development and history helps us all to avoid the biggest pitfalls and also to drive questions about future responsibility. And that's a big thing, the responsibility, because we're going to leave this to our kids. And I would like to hand over a better world to my kids than the one I got from my parents. I would like to give an example of reoccurring constantly in all the things that we buy related to lighting. It's impossible to backtrack them. None of the manufacturers are able to tell us the entire chain of production, and they have no idea about the possibilities concerning reuse. I think we should stop using the word recycling, because recycling usually is an idea of bringing all things together and burning them, and that's the end of life. So reuse would be a more significant way of going into the future. We're putting up these demands to everyone we're doing business with, but there are no answers at the moment. Because as a buyer of the city, I have the responsibility to buy fair trade products and with as little impact on the environment as possible, and at the same time the highest value for tax money. And that's a bit kind of a different way of the most of the ones doing business around. During the Lighting Metropolis project, which I'm the father, the architect of it, it was funded by the European Union with 7 million euros. And we collaborated with the University of Lund, one of the universities. I think there were 4 universities in there. The International Institute of Industrial Environmental Economics, they tried to find a way to where things come from, and if there's a business case in this. They did a case study about it, about sustainability. You will find the entire report if Thomas have the possibility of putting up the link in the last slides. One example from the report, for instance, is the extraction of rare earth metals in Bayan Obu in China. In this conclusion, social impacts show that the start of LED productions is far away from environmental friendly. It exemplifies how water and air contamination with radioactive waste is having a huge impact on living species, including the human beings in that area. Therefore, the question of reuse seems to be even more important, not only for the end of extracting rare earth metals will be in the near future, but also the possible industry of reuse is a potential gold mine. To do so, we need to go beyond the bottlenecks of extraction methods and serious legislative support. Lighting designers are not the one to do this, but are obliged to put these demands on the table in every given situation. That's what we can do as lighting designers. We can tell the world about this, and we could also put the demands on it. But we need some support by politicians and other people around. So information is number one, the key things for the lighting designers. That's my answer to your question, Thomas.
Thank you, Johan. I think that shows there's still a long way to go. Can we turn to Alberto now for his presentation? I believe you shared some slides with us. I'm going to try to put them on. Here we go. Just tell me when to put them forward.
Yeah, you can go forward. That was just the introduction. And the real question that we start, you start like in 2006, and I started to study was about the circular economy, how it can become, transfer something that now, how Johan was saying, recycle is just move together. A lot of things become a circular. If you can show the next slide, I think is a slide that we have seen a lot of time. It's nothing new, but it just to understand that from the raw materials to the consumption, there is a lot of step as manufacturing. And yes, it's true. Sometimes you have certified, you know where material came from. Sometimes you don't. And in the next slide, you can see, how the life cycle assessment work. And I'm not gonna throw in all the detail, but I'd like to give some point that I think can help the discussion that we have today. And the first is the ISO 14044 start to say perfect. Before do any kind of study, you need to have in mind which is the goal. We cannot think about, I start from the example of Johan. We cannot think the LED is good for the environment if we don't look to all the impact they have in the environment. It's like to say, or something else, I have a phone, that is an iPhone. And yes, I can study all the impact that this phone have from raw material to be in production, but I can even check how many gas saved when I use as a GPS. There is a lot of different way to look for this. It's very important that that is a big effort of everyone. We decide what to look about. And after there is the inventory, the analysis, that is all the data that you can collect and put together in the impact assessment, that is the life cycle impact assessment. And after that, you do the interpretation. The interpretation is like check with the ISO if all the data that you collect are good. So that is just to show how it works. And in the next slide, you can see, the global warming potential that we are talking a lot about. I think some formula is missed, but more than the formula, it's interesting to see that a parameter that very often is used is the CO2, because is one of the reference that use in order to understand which product, and came out for a formula that you can apply for everything. That is one example how you can use LCA to go until this point. In the next slide, we're gonna see as case study. The case study was I put this one in Irvine, California, because you can see in in the area there was we have a customer that since 20 years have a lot of different application over there, and in that specific project, we can move forward with the slide. Where it came out that we there was a lot of product, and that is a situation that I think probably very similar to what Carla found a project that is been doing for 30-40 years with product that for sure you have to do something that's gonna last for more than 1 year. For this put in place a new thought to do all the work in this kind of project. For this, there was a lot of different fixture with different lamp. There was even mercury lamp in some application, not optic. And in the next slide, you can see that the beautiful of that is picture of the existing. The next one, I think that was really interesting that Thomas, you can go in the next slide, please. In the work that, yeah, that is just few pictures to understand the scale of the project. And in the next slide, I point some of you know, the approach, because what the lighting design was able to do here, the first project was handled from first cycle, lighting design over there, was say, okay, you know, we can try to make circular. How? Just try to instead send everything on the waste, try to use something. And it's not a revolutionary thing, it's not the hot water, it's just to look at what you have right now and think, okay, can we use the enclosure? Yes. Is a project that is gonna last for 10, 15 years? Yes. Let's work together, all together. For this, it cannot be the light design by itself, it cannot be even the manufacturing. For this, is start to involve from the owner, the people that do the maintenance, the people that do the installation, and all these people together to try or to optimize this recycling, to have less waste and have a solution that help for all the future life of the project. In the next slide, we can see, you know, that from the study that you know, NC State University make you know, a lot of study about that. The one very interesting thing is say, you know, you cannot talk about recycling if you don't talk about the net emission, because you know, the real net emission is what you avoid from the virgin production. And all the rest, you know, I think is simple math, but every time you have to have a waste, yes, for sure, is not going to be something recycled. And we can move in the next slide. For this, that is just to see the list of the people that was able to put together the lighting designer. For this, a lot of meeting with a lot of different people, with a lot of different needs, with a lot of different scope of work, with the same thing, find a solution that can work for all of them. For this, the electrician explain, you know, when I have to do an upgrade, how I do, which is the best way to, you know, achieve this point. And the person of the maintenance say, yes, now I have, you know, 2-3 warehouse of materials per part that, you know, get older, stay here aging. For this was a lot of teamwork. And, you know, yes, in the bottom, we were able to work together a solution that was working for all these players in order to have, for example, some support plate locally, because you don't want to ship, you know, from oversize this kind of thing. In the next slide, you can see other than some example, you know, like one big trouble that we're fighting with the restaurant was that some restaurant didn't want to have a bright light, want to have something soft in order to turn on the, you know, different, more decorative light. And for, you know, and we understood that for this, instead keep the incandescent, they were able to dimming. Yes, we even create a solution where every client, every customer of restaurant can even dim their own fixture how he want, or, you know, set up before. That is an idea to check and, you know, working together in order to be able to reach it. That is very important, because if you impose something, the people is going to find a shortcut. And I think there is some slides right now where you can see some of the application, and that is the application where the people want to use, even with the LED, a spatial dimming solution in order to have, you know, the light how they want. That is another area. And that is a project that is being doing for, yes, more than 10 years. I think, Thomas, you can go through all the picture until we don't get the light, the last, you know, slide. that is in north of USA. Yes, and that is my last slide. That was a study that was made. No, yes, is not correct. The credit is the University of Arizona, and I think it's interesting because that was Thomas Seger of the University of Arizona. That he gave a simple thing that I think can help everyone to understand, what is the, how we can proceed the circular economy, because everything can be, first of all, it depends of, to how we make decision, how a lighting designer can make a decision, how a manufacturer can make a decision, how every person make a decision in the same process. For this can be, the first the scale, individual, society, organization, and we were talking before. A second can be fast and slow. I give you two examples. If you go in a beautiful buffet restaurant, today you can make a fast decision on what to eat, because maybe you find the calories, maybe you find the vegan option, you find the vegetarian option, the gluten-free option. For this, when everything, 10 years ago, maybe, if you go in a restaurant and say, can I have a gluten-free? They can look you, I don't know, I have to go to check with the kitchen. I have to, that it become all the decision slow. For this, it's so clear that in order to have a fast decision, is a mixing of even for the individual, for the group, for the municipality, for the organization, is a cultural problem, because until it's not very clear what you have to look, or what is important to be focused on, it's going to be difficult even from all the players to have this decision. And we are moving forward. Yes, there is a lot of things to do, a lot, in order to reach this point. If you think about the lighting pollution, right now, any lighting designer can make a decision in 1 second. Full cutoff, not full cutoff, that's it. But, probably 15 years ago, you have to go to check the report of the photometric lab. For this is a work that you have to be done, for our point of view, from my point of view, and it's possible to do, when you put together all the efforts. And I think that was my last slide.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. That was very interesting. I think we've heard quite interesting examples, both from reuse perspective, but also from the perspective of the need for transparency from the lighting manufacturers about how products are being developed and manufactured. So I think both of these two elements will be important going forward. And I think also lighting designers will need to be able to say which lighting products are sustainable. So this is what I wanted to cover in the second question, actually, because we know that in order to provide such transparency, the EU is now thinking about developing some kind of sustainability scoring, which and labeling of products, and this would be probably composed of different elements such as the energy efficiency requirements, the repairability requirements, the life cycle assessment of carbon footprint of the products, something that you, Alberto, talked about, and so on. So I was wondering which of these elements are the most important in your view, and also if there should be some lighting specific criteria in these regulations that the EU is preparing. something like requirements on flicker or glare or light pollution that has been mentioned as well. So can I start with you, Alberto Design, on this question?
Okay, yes, sure. It's a very big point. For as a manufacturing company, we have done. I think everyone manufacturing have done a lot of work try to make a product, more environment friendly. We are receiving a lot of new tools in order to understand, because I said before, is not meaning that an LED product, the bottom line is more eco-friendly than another one, because what we, I personally like of the LCA, that describe, a product from the raw material until the end of the use. For this is so big, this life cycle that is important to define together, which is the most important thing. So what is the most bottom line factor that we want to look at? That can be the CO2, can be the energy saving, can be the lighting pollution. Yeah, but it's really important give to each one of these elements a weight. It's important for us to have the possibility to have the, when you buy something, you go buy a steak, where it's made, how it's made, what it contain. Right now, you have, a lot of companies do this kind of process, but it's not something that the final customer know. In the end, you receive a product. And you don't know which manufacturing have done a lot of effort or less effort to have the tracking of every material. You can ship everything product, I say in Italy because I'm Italian, and ship back and say it's made in Italy when it's not. Or it can be that is there is no history of every product until the use of the product, because it's not that a product that I think the light design can explain even better. It's not that a product that have 5% more of performance can let you save a lot of energy, because it's dependent on the distribution. For instance, for this is really a way to start to look all these factors that describe the reality of a product as a manufacturing for this, and try to find which is the most important key for that. Or the paint, there is some paint that they cannot even, maybe you don't know, but as a manufacturer, we know that there is some paints that cannot even go inside the European Union because they are too toxic. But if you use outside and you ship there, you can have even install in your project. For this, how we can handle this one. For me, putting together a lot of effort, have a regulation that they start to come out, and let inform all the people possible about which are the standard. I don't know if I answer enough. I can talk for hour about this matter. For this, I try to do.
Well, let's hear from Johan, for example, on this, and then we can come back if you want to add something more, Alberto. Okay. Johan, do you have any insights on that?
Well, the question of sustainability needs to be defined in a broader context to make sense. I mean, today we use sustainability mostly to greenwash the projects we do. 20% of the energy outtake in the world is done by lighting, and 80% is heating and cooling and other things. So why is the focus on lighting as the first step of the sustainability work? I think that's a very, very strange way of handling things, but the reason is probably that you see the immediate effect of power reduction when you use LEDs. But I mean, looking at energy efficiency just as one isolated thing to consider, it's not really the best thing of doing so. If we continue to keep focus on energy, I think a better way to find a sustainable way would be a total focus on alternative energy production instead of going into bad light quality. So why not autonomous hydrogen plants with fuel cells providing power locally in small facilities instead of sending nuclear power across countries? And if we broaden the question to light quality, we have to stop comparing apple with pears. New technologies should not be investigated and valued by old technology methods. With living creatures in focus and understanding the impact of light on everything, on every living species on this planet, the question of light quality would be easy to condense into legislation worth mentioning. So I think that the reconsideration of what we're talking about when it comes to sustainability, it's not a one focus area. It's a lot of things we have to take in consideration and also do the best of it. And the lighting designers around the world, they could maybe agree upon, if it's TM 3015 or whatever they want to call it now, or something else, a new way of measuring the quality of light so we can have good tools to work with. Then we can talk about sustainability in the products and the production chain and so on, but we have to have a product which we could work with first to see where we can go. I think that would be my take on sustainability at the moment. Thank you.
Carla, what is your view on this?
I think I would agree to both, to Alberto and to Johan. I think we came out from the field that we were thinking about sustainability and the design and energy saving, and now we are one step further and we see it's really more than one single focus, that we really have to see all the parameters we should consider, and that is the product itself and the material, the usage. It's we know that from like the fashion industry that they have these QR codes and you can see who was knitting it, and then why can't we do it with a lamp fixture, a luminaire? So the textile industry is able to do it, to tell me what is the name of the sheep who provides the wool. So okay, and who is the woman who is knitting it? So the question is really, I think it's complicated. It's not easy at all. But then at the other end, we have that label. We are smart. We do the smart lighting. So question is, why can't we be smart on this tiny approach, that everyone shows their responsibility? What is the chain line of the product and the materials? I think it's not easy, not at all. It's very, because everyone has to be open, and the sneaky corners you normally can use, once in a sudden they are open for everyone, and makes life far more difficult. But then at the other hand, I think as lighting designer, for us, the lighting, the atmosphere, the space, like our typical phrases we are using as designers, that is really important. And sometimes authorities and legislations cut the options of a very nice and refined lighting design in a way that we are not able to use some tools anymore. So at the one hand, we have to fight for our tools. Other hand, we have to be smart and we have to be responsible. And I think in the first hand, we thought we are good designers, we are smart, but there was that little lack of responsibility about the next generations and what we like with all the LED industry, which is, I think it's great, but then the waste we are creating with that modules and how we can reuse those are questions nobody really has the answers at the moment. It's like the same you said with your mobile phone. How many mobile phones you had in your life and what have you done with them? So now we can ask as lighting designers the question, okay, how many LED fittings did you have? And when it wasn't working anymore, what is happening with those LED fittings? And it's electronics. It's pure electronics. And we should be a little bit scared about that. But the good thing is it's on the table. We are discussing about it at the moment. And I think that is a great opportunity. And we should really use that time how we can become better in our behavior. Is that, I hope that is really something which can also bring us to the next question.
Yes, exactly. I can assure you that all these things are really coming. I mean, as I said, the EU is looking into regulating, all sorts of stuff, not just lighting. So that's another element that we have to keep in mind, that regulating lighting products will be done in conjunction with regulating other products on the market. So there's going to be some overlaps. But on the next question, I would like to talk about the role of the public sector. And as Johan already said, the public sector has the possibility to truly encourage sustainability by procurement, green public procurement, and I believe that's something that you do in Malmö as well. But what are some other ways that public sector could encourage circularity in lighting? Johan, I believe I should start with you in this one.
Okay. Well, the public sector is probably the largest buyer of units of all of them, and they should take a large part of the investment, because we need to inject money into the industry. I think that Alberto loved to hear this, that the public sector should shove in the money, but in conjunction with demands on traceability and reusability and so on. So lighting designers should set up the guidelines together with the scientists about what's possible and not possible, and also try to put a demand on changing from the recycling to the reuse instead. I think that's the things that the public sector should do. That's what we should do for the tax money, because it's all concerning all the people around us. But it's hard to do so, because there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of money involved in this also. It's billions and billions again. I think this is the largest monetary revolution since money was invented. No war has turned over as much money as the lighting design or the lighting industry at the moment, with the LEDs on the market. So there is a lot of money in it, and we should try to put them into where they make the most use and sense together, so that the manufacturers make money and that people get the best quality out of it for the future. And that's the responsibility of the public sector. That's my take on that. Thank you.
Carla, do you want to be the next on this?
Yeah, I can do that. I think it is more being on the artistic part of it. We always love our freedom. We think we are sort of smart heads, and we love our freedom. We don't like those regulations and borders public authorities gives us and says like, oh, you are not allowed to do that because there's an issue. So, but then at the other hand, I think it is important because there are only a few which are really pushing the industry forward, like the leaders in the industry, but there are a lot of people and the industry is large. It should be really widened. So at the end, I think it is good. I think there should be the help of the authorities to support projects which have a high amount of reusage, as you said it, Johan, not saying recycle, that and we know money drives it all. So there should be like a tax reduction on the project. So it should be really a benefit to those. And I think one thing in the whole industry is that we all see our project will be more monitored. So that should be a really large part of it. And as I said, I don't like these these borders because there are also steps when we have to jump over and find new interpretations of it. But I think the support money-wise could be extremely helpful for a client to decide to go to this direction, because it's always at the end of the day they want to earn money with it. They should have a benefit, and the industry too. And I think I also want to earn my money with my business, so I shouldn't be on that high level. I'm only the artist. It's only art. No, it's all about money, and I think that is one thing authorities can massage and support the idea and the discussion. I think that is at the moment really needed. Alberto, do you want to have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of thought. I try to be more realistic because, you know, I'm totally agree with you, Carla, when you say that the best way to help somebody that you consider good for the environment is help give economic value, because sometimes what is good for the environment is more expensive. For this, that is the first help. The risk sometimes, from my experience, that they want to do the work of the lighting design and tell you what to use where, and that it doesn't work. Because I saw projects that were made from local rules that didn't make any sense from any point of view. For this, everyone have to do his work as a manufacturing, public sector, and lighting designer. And I think that the public sector can help to put together all this point. You know, yes, helping to valorize the project, the manufacturing, and all the player that have pay more attention to this, let's say, you know, to this environment point. For this, I think the most help that they can do is support, be a collant, or all these things. For this, the GPP are a very interesting point of start. They have to be something that help the manufacturing to develop a product that met this requirement, and the lighting designer, and I'm talking about the light industry, to know which product have some kind of information. They, you know, not become a manufacturing company or light designing company, but yes, they can have a huge role to help, you know, this kind of, you know, put together effort.
Are there any reactions, or we can move forward? Because the next question is quite, I think, quite related to what we have been discussing so far. So let's talk about the economic side of things again. How do we make sure that the circular solutions in lighting sector are making sense economically? So, for example, how do we ensure that second-hand equipment is not more expensive than buying new luminaires? Is there a way? Can I start with you, Alberto, again here?
Okay. Let's say that a lot of time reusing the second-hand equipment it can be the reason what we are doing is because it's less expensive, but a lot of time is not. If you look at that single point, you know, sometimes you can find something cheaper. You know, you can always have a value engineer of a project and find somebody cheaper. The real thing is what can be very good for the environment point of view. For this, like, you know, and for what I see, when you look and you pay attention from this point and to all the aspects, in the long term, pay you back. Meaning, yes, you know, in the case study that I showed you before, for sure should be less expensive substitute this light with somebody, you know, less expensive, whatever. But do a plan for 10, 15 years, how to handle, you know, every situation, the maintenance, the electrical labor, the work, the future develop, you know, put all this point together, yes, give more value. In the end, they were the right choice because especially in that area, they came out a new regulation for this. This choice was very good. The real problem for me a lot of time that we have to, you know, pay attention what is meaning, you know, the economical point of view. Because as I say before, two things can be look the same, but when you go deep, you know, it's like everyone want a product that doesn't make any rust, a lighting fixture, but no one asks how you make the painting in your product. You know, for this, maybe you create more pollution for your children, for the future generation, in order to save $15 in a product, and that is makes sense, is really economical worthy. That is the big issue, you know, big question, you know. Is a change mind, change of culture from all the point of view, you know, for this, what I said before is really a cultural step that from all, for me, for all the players we have to start to do, you know, and I'm feeling we are doing in that direction because I consider myself in old because it's almost 15 years that I'm being in the lighting business, and I saw a lot of change. For this, I'm feeling we are going in the right direction.
Carla, do you want to be the next on this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think there's no recipe. Sorry, there is no recipe. Might be someone in the internet or social media have it, they can discuss it. I personally, working for so long in the industry, no recipe. But might be there is the possibility to have something like a passport for a product. That you have, like, you can be extremely good on 90%. Hey, with a painting, I'm failing, but I was so good at the one hand that at least in the average, I'm on the middle class side, not the best one, not the first one in row. So, but it's a step forward. I think what we have to do and to educate is that we get a sensibility for the issues we are facing. And that is the most important thing. It's little steps. And I think if there is something like a passport, good. It's like years ago we said like, oh, you are also telling LED is great and it will hold forever. So start to give us a warranty, give us 5 years. And everyone said like, oof, are you crazy? 2 years is normal in the industry. You want 5? You are out of your mind. But if you look at the industry at the moment, I mean, this was 10 years ago to raise the question. Now, 10 years later, if you look around, 5 years is pretty much standard. So we really have to focus and to see like, okay, we start with it. We will achieve it everything at the beginning, but if everything starts to get a little bit better, then we will climb on the mountain. And Johan, what is your thoughts on that one?
Well, what you say makes sense, of course, and I mean, with your experience, it's a fact. The lifetime is just getting shorter and shorter, and the quality is not really increasing in that speed we want it to. But I'm sitting here wondering. It's not very nice of me to say this, Alberto, but I just have to. Maybe there's other manufacturer out there listening also. What happened when we went into the LEDs? What happened with all the quality thinking of the products, of handling light, the light quality in itself, the quality of the products in general? The products we have in the city, they've been up, some of them been up for maybe 30 or 40 years. It's time to change them, of course, now. But they were very easily updated from high pressure sodium to metal halide. Absolutely no worries. Maybe in some of them we had to put in a starter to make it work, but they worked in a perfect way. But when the LEDs came, it just became everybody should do their own thing at the cheapest possible way and just sell it in a high speed, with no consideration of having a product lasting for 30 years with high quality and doing the job it does. When it comes to street lighting, for instance, we don't need 90 in the CRI for color rendering. There's no need for it. So why should we pay for it? Maybe we could go on with having 30 in the CRI or so on. But that's just thoughts and ideas I have about this, and no one can answer it. And I think that it would be nice if the manufacturers drove the sustainability and environmental friendly ideas also. As you say, when you're painting things, it's maybe a greater impact on the environment than the buyer would even be able to say is okay. Why don't you tell the paint producer to produce a painting that could do this? That's more a job of yours than is a job of mine as a buyer in the end. But that's it's a huge question about that. So I would like to refer to the report, which you could find in the links that Thomas probably will provide, the second link from Lighting Metropolis, with the circle of lights and the impact of the LED life circle. Because there's a lot of questions in there, and there's a lot of answers also. But you have to read it yourself, because it's a huge report about everything from whatever. So that's the most I can say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johan, for raising an important point as well, even though it didn't sound that optimistic. We have just a few minutes left, so maybe we can finish with with a more uplifting message. I was wondering, with the transition to circular economy, which I hope will, one day happen, even though it is still a long way to go. How, with this transition, how the profession of lighting design will change? What, if you could talk to the new generation of lighting designers, what would be your advice to them? What will be the skills or knowledge that they will need in the future in the view of circular economy? Carla, can I start with you this time?
That is a magic question. If I can answer that, hey, I would be by myself delighted. I think it's not that is the issue. It's not that easy. It's not, as I said, there is no recipe. What we can tell everybody is be sensible, think about what are the right questions, and don't give up to force the industry and your clients to make a responsible design you can hand over to the next generation. And it's not only high street, like good for one day and one award. It's also good for the next years and might be for the next generation. And your goal should be, your design should be reused in former times. Then it's really sustainable. And it's not only like a nice 5 years hit on the market. That would be my approach and thoughts on that one, Thomas.
Johan, what will be your take on this one?
Well, lighting designers have always and will continue to do their best to consider all aspects of how lighting impact the environment. So this will continue, and forums like this are the best way of sharing this kind of ideas and to be presented into the legislative institutes also. The collaboration with art and science is also a way to drive this development, and I think more projects with interdisciplinary collaborations will be the future road to follow. So we need to be more people with more knowledge to do more things together. I think that's where we are now at the moment. But it's going to be a very nice future, and it will be bright and lovely in every way.
Do you agree with that, Alberto?
Yeah, I mean, totally agree with that thought, because we have to start to talk, have a confrontation. I like the confrontation, but is to understand it, to start to talk about this point. And I've seen the lighting pollution, how it changed the business. The people start to be more aware. For this, first of all, is start to be aware of the problems, start to talk, start to discuss in all the different levels that we have. And for me, starting at least is what I'm doing, and what sometimes I teach my kids for other things to do. Look at everything not just as a product, but a story behind it. For this, you can look at a hamburger and say how it's made, where it came from, or pasta homemade. Is everything is like that. Try to look at every product, everything we receive from our supplier, or you use as a public level, or as a lighting designer. Okay, what is behind this product, which can be the real impact of that. And I think that starting the discussion is going to probably help us to even figure out which are the most important point to be aware when we do this kind of things with kind of project in the lighting industry.
Okay, so with that, I think we need to finish now. So I would like to thank you again so very much for joining us today for an interesting conversation. I hope we will be able to continue the discussion in a future webinar or even an in-person meeting one day if that's possible again. So thanks again, and I wish you have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Carla.
and thank you. And stay safe.